I'm Karen Burniston, the designer of Pop It Ups products for Elizabeth Craft Designs. And today I'll be teaching how to make this.
A double arching fence and tree card. The iron fence die was launched as part of the Pop It Ups Halloween collection, but it can definitely be used for any type of scene. So you'll see that I'm using this technique today to make a garden scene, and at the end of the video I'll show it to you also made as a Halloween scene. I will end up using all 5 of the dies that come in the iron fence die set, but for now I'm going to concentrate on cutting a couple fences and a couple slider arms. The slider arm die also scores to create a little fold over foot. So I'm just going to find that score line and fold that little foot over on the end of the slider arm. The fence itself was designed so that it can be used flat on a card or scrapbook layout and look great in the flat position, or you can animate it as a pop-up. And I'll also cut a third fence. A card size that's going to work really well for this technique would be a 6x5 horizontal card. So that means you start with a 5" by 12" strip of cardstock and score it in the middle at 6 inches. And I've also cut 2 strips of green pattern paper. They're 2 inches by 6 inches, and I'm going to cut the edge of those with the grass edger from the Outdoor Edges die set. Now my strips were a little bit longer than my die, so I just finished it out with scissors, and now I'll just glue those into the card along the bottom. Now that my background is done, I can just check what is the color that's going to be behind the center of the fence, and I can see all those triangles are going to be right over the top of that green color. So that's the color that I would want to cut the sleeve from my iron fence die set. Assembling the sleeve is just a matter of folding it on the score lines that were made by the die, and then just gluing the sleeve to itself. And just make sure that that's a loose sleeve. You definitely want that to slide easily along the slider arm. Now technically only 1 sleeve is required per fence to make the pop-up work, but if you'd like to disguise more of the slider arm, you can put 2 sleeves next to each other and just tape them together. Now I should not have had my tape go all the way end to end. I wasn't thinking when I did this it's not going to give enough give on the sleeve, which you're going to see later on in the video. So if you're doing this with me, I'm going to suggest you just put the tape across 1 sleeve and about halfway into the second one, and leave yourself some area of the sleeve that's untaped, and that should be the area that is closest to the foot. And you're going to see why in a little bit, because I'm going to have to make a correction to mine where hopefully you will not have to make that because you will have not put your tape all the way across the length of both sleeves. So I'm using that wider fence post to give me a guide for how much tape should go out on the flat end of my slider arm. And you'll notice I've already put the sleeves onto that end of that arm. I'm making 2 opposite fences here. So I've got the foot end towards the inside of the fence, and I'm adding my tape towards the outer flat end of the arm. And where that's going to attach is back behind the fence. Easiest way is just to flip the fence over, flip the arm over, and the idea is to have it go straight through the middle of the fence. So you can kind of see by the triangles, makes it really easy for you to tell that you've got that nice and centered. Now the reason for that is because that little foot end needs to go through one of the triangles. It's actually the last triangle in the fence. You need to get that foot through that triangle. Now going back around to the front, that foot then folds towards the center of the fence. The adhesive then is going to go on the foot, which has been folded over already, so the adhesive goes on top of that folded over foot. The fence is actually going to arch up between the 2 wide fence posts, so that means little valley folds are going to be needed where the fence touches the wide fence posts. Then you just peel up the tape on the folded over foot, hold it down, fold over the wide fence post until it touches that exposed adhesive. And now you'll see that that makes the fence operational. As that fold opens, it arches up the fence. Now I'm going to very quickly assemble the other fence in the mirror image position, which means I'm going to attach the flat end of the slider arm to the right fence post this time, but still up the middle. The foot goes through the triangle and folds towards the inside of the fence. The adhesive goes on the back of the foot. I work the folds where the fence itself touches the wide fence posts, peel up the liner, and then fold the wide fence post over to attach to the foot. And then you'll see that now the second fence is operational. Okay, I'm going to pause the tutorial for a second just to explain something about the iron fence and how it works. It requires a card fold where the wide fence post is, the one that has the foot attached to it. So typically what this means is that you choose one side of the card or the other to have the arching fence, and then if you want that fence to continue on, you use flat fences then to extend it. Now, what I'm doing in today's technique is I'm going to use an extra portion of a fence to create a doubling fold in the center of the card, and that will allow me then to have two arching fences in the same card. Cut another fence, and that's what's going to be used to double the fold. Now, there are 7 fence posts in between the 2 wide ones, and I need a section of fence that has 6 posts. So I'm going to cut with scissors next to one of the posts, then I'll count out 6 of them, and cut right next to the post after number 6. And then some additional trimming, because the outer 2 fence posts on both sides of the fence do not need the little decorative pieces on the top of the fence post, and they also don't need the section that sticks out below the bottom. So if you just take scissors and trim all of that off. It's the outer post itself that's going to be the fold under foot. And so you really just have to fold that under. It's pretty easy just to do by hand. You only really have to worry about the outside little sections and get those started to fold under like a foot. Don't worry about the little decorative pieces in the middle that stick up. You can even just kind of trim those off because they will get covered up later anyway. It's just about making a little fold under foot on both sides of the fence. And it's just that final little fence post folded under to become a little foot. And then I want to fold this piece right up the middle. And the easiest way to do that is just to use the little decorative pieces out at the end and make sure that those are lined up right over the top of each other, as well as the bottom part of the fence post as well. And just fold it right up the middle. Now this will be a mountain fold in the finished card, but for installation it's easier to make it a valley fold for right now. So I'm just going to invert that fold. And then now I'm going to add some adhesive on the feet themselves. And I'm using the 3mm double-sided adhesive tape from Elizabeth Craft Designs because it's nice and thin and it'll fit that foot. You could also use glue. Then I'm just going to peel up the liner, so now I've got 2 sticky feet. And then you'll see how having that be a valley fold for right now makes it just easier to line it up in the fold of the card. And I want the fence post right along the bottom. And then one side or the other, starting with one side or the other, I just want to fold under the foot and attach it to the card. And then just holding it so it doesn't move, I'll fold under the other foot and attach it to the card. And what should happen as I close the card is that it'll just automatically reverse and become a mountain fold again. Hopefully you won't have to give that any help. Now what this has done is it's created 2 new folds in the card. One here, one here. Each one of those can be used to animate one of the fences. So let's talk about the installation process. When the fence is flat, then the wide fence post is folded down so that you're actually looking at the back of the wide fence post here. And I've butted that right up next to the centerpiece, and the glue actually needs to go on the centerpiece because of all the holes in it. I wouldn't want to put it on the back of the wide fence post or else I'd get glue down in between and all over the grass and everything else. Now I'm going to hold the fence in position and then carefully close the card against the fence, and that will attach that wide fence post to the centerpiece in the correct position. Attaching the sleeve is what anchors the fence so that it can't flop over to the other side anymore. So I need to peel up the liner on my sleeve set and then making sure that the fence is in its fully arched up position. So my card is flat, my fence is arched up. I slide that sleeve set as close to the outside fence as I can get it, and then I press it down. Now here's where I wish I wouldn't have put the tape all the way across both sleeves, because when you look at it from the side, you really see what that sleeve set wants to do to help the fence arch up. The sleeve itself wants to be able to raise up with the slider arm as it travels through that little triangle. So I am going to fix that little error I made with the sleeves, but in the meantime, let me first just get my other fence installed. Same exact process. The wide fence post butts up right next to the centerpiece. Adhesive is on the centerpiece itself. Close the card against the wide fence post and that will attach it in the correct position. In order to anchor the fence, I need to peel up the liner on the back of the sleeve set. I need to make sure that the fence is in its fully upright and arched position. Slide that sleeve set towards the outer fence as far as it'll go, and then give it a press. Now once again, my sleeves want to raise up in the air, but as soon as I close it and give it a press, because I have adhesive all the way along the sleeves, now I can see what I've done. I've created very uneven arches because those sleeves are just pinned down on those inside edges where they really needed to be able to raise up in the air. My solution was just to cut a couple pieces of the same color grass paper, go in there, kind of peel those sleeves up where they want to raise up anyway, slide those pieces of paper up underneath there. That way they're no longer sticky, they won't get pinned down, they'll be able to raise up with the slider arm. Now, your solution would have been just not to have your tape go all the way to that inside edge, just stop it about halfway through that second sleeve. And then some additional flat fence parts can be used out on the outside edges to extend the fence so that it goes end to end. Now these flat fence parts are actually attached just to the card itself. There's nothing that's actually attached to the arching fences. Those need to be free to move. They have to slide out further towards the end when the card is closed and then slide up and arch when the card is open. I do have a little bit of those flat fence posts kind of up underneath the arching one, just so that I don't create any catch points when the card opens and closes. I've cut 2 of the All Seasons tree, and what I'd like to do is weave these 2 together, get the branches for the one on the right kind of woven into the branches of the one on the left, and the location that I figured out that it works the best is this little divot right here. So that's kind of in between the second and the third branch clumps is the perfect spot to weave in the branches from the other tree. So I'm just going to go in there from the top, kind of weave those branches in. Then once I've got them in, I'll be able to flatten out those 2 trees right next to each other. And then those tree trunks are then going to attach to the centerpiece of the card. So now I'm just going to add glue to the tree trunks themselves, and I want to attach them to the backs of the fence posts in the center of the card. And I've got one tree on one side of the fold and the other tree on the other side of the fold. And it doesn't really much matter how far down they go. That's really just to kind of keep them within the limits of the card. It's not going to be able to close yet because there's way too many tree branches sticking out further than where the second fold is. So the second fold is where the arching fence starts. And that's the location where you really have to have your tree branches not crossing that on the back side of the trees. And the easiest way to do that is just to start closing the card and see which branches hit the card and trim them. And just keep trimming until you've got it operating nicely. And then really to give some fullness and extra branches, I'm going to attach flat trees to the back of the card and just go in there and weave those down in behind the back of the 3-dimensional tree just attached to the card itself. And I'm going to do that twice. I'm going to put one on the left side and then one on the right side. The All Seasons tree die set comes with this die that will cut 3 identical flowers at one time, and if you use a light enough white cardstock, you can actually cut through 2 layers at one time, meaning that you get 6 flowers for every time you run it through the machine. That allows you to pretty quickly get a nice big amount of flowers to decorate those trees. And I used glitter dots in the middle of each of those flowers and tinted them with some Distress ink. To finish out the card's interior, I cut the 2 birds that come with the iron fence set and just attached them after inking to the fence post so that they pop up with the fence. Added all my flowers in the tree, and then the greeting is the Enjoy Your Day from the Just a Note clear stamps. So now I just need to decorate the front of the card, and I've cut a piece of pattern paper that's just a little bit smaller than the card front. And from that piece, I'm going to nest together the 2 largest labels from the Labels and Circles set and cut those out at the same time. Then I'll cut the smallest label and then layer that onto the slightly larger one. If you have ever watched any of my videos, you probably know already that my favorite way to design the fronts of cards is actually just to let whatever I've done on the inside guide me. And I like to do a simple lead-in using the same types of colors and patterns that you'll find when you open the card. So in this case, another tree, another bird with similar coloring, and I'll just tie that ribbon into a knot and trim the ends into fishtail shapes, and then it's just a matter of adding my flowers and my card front is done. So I styled this card very pretty, with pretty colors and styling. It would make an excellent Mother's Day card, birthday thank you. I used it here for thinking of you. But you could also go in another direction, which is to go spooky with it and make a really cool Halloween card. So our first designer challenge for October 2016 has a theme of Roy G. Biv. And the idea of this challenge is to make a card using monochromatic colors based on one of the colors of the rainbow. So my color is indigo, which is a dark blue, so I chose lots of different blues to make this rather spooky version of the double fence card. Instead of using the All Seasons tree, I swapped out for the Halloween Scene die set. Now, this is a great die set that includes 5 all-purpose Halloween items. So that's a spooky graveyard edge die. You've got a tree that can also be used as a branch, a spider web, a spider, and a bat. For the front of my card, I used the same Labels and Circles die set with some layered up labels and then some elements, the same ones as the inside of my card. I did emboss the background with the bat's stencil. Inside, I just added bats and birds and spiders and spider webs, gave them all glitter dot eyes, and the greetings are from the Halloween clear stamps. If you'd like a closer look at some of the photos of these cards, maybe some additional information about the supplies that I used, including links of where you can buy these things, head on over to the blog post associated with this video. And in the upper right corner of this video, you should see a little eye and a circle. That's the information card. Click on that, it'll take you right to the blog post, or you can find it in the About section on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, I of course would love it if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Facebook, Karen Burniston Designer, where I post daily inspiration, and you'll always find more ideas on my blog, KarenBurniston.com. Thanks for watching.